Morning guys and gals, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video we are going to be performing the annual service on the New Holland C232. Model year is a 2019. So I hope you guys find this video entertaining and informative. Let's get to it. Alright, so now that we've let the skid steer run and idle for about 15 minutes just to get those oils good and warm so they flow really well, we're going to crawl underneath and I'll show you guys what to do. And we're going to crawl underneath here with a creeper. And right up underneath this plate that we took off earlier is this cap under the oil pan. Set that off to the side. And we got this handy dandy little drain spout, and what this is compression. There's a little trinket in there that once you screw that in, it releases the oil. Alright, now that we have the oil draining out of the bottom of the oil pan, what we're going to do, I removed two panels over here on the driver's side and the rear. The front panel takes 15 millimeter wrench. I think there's 3 bolts. And then this whole lower rim piece is 24 millimeter, and there's also 3 bolts in that. And by removing the second panel, this one right here, it makes it a lot easier to access the oil filter and clean any debris and stuff that you have lodged in by the battery box. So we're going to remove this oil filter now. So we're done draining the oil. I'm going to crawl underneath and remove this fancy nice little spigot and put the cap back on. Alright, we crawled underneath, we put the cap back on the oil pan. The filter we're going to be using today is 400181, and it's a Napa Gold filter. I try to use all Napa filters on my equipment just due to the fact that there's a local Napa, and I like to support local businesses if I can. We're going to grab a little bit of this oil, kind of just rub it around the rubber seal. Why? Because that's what everybody does. Twist her on. Wipe the oil that you have on your gloves on your pants. So I just looked it up. This machine calls for 2.3 gallons. I use 1540 Rotella T5. It's a synthetic blend. This is one of the only machines that I have here in the shop that basically I use a synthetic blend on. We have a little over 2 gallons we've put in it so far. I like to pull the dipstick right around when I'm getting close to the required amount and just check to see exactly where we're at, just in case online research led me astray. Alright, so now that we have the oil all changed, new filter, the hydraulic filter is located on the driver's side of the radiator right here in the rear, and the filter that we're going to be using is a Napa Gold. Number is 400. So next, after replacing the hydraulic filter, we're going to pull the cap off of the outer air filter here, outer inner air filter. Super simple. There's a little yellow pull tab right here on the rear. You just kind of slide that out and give it a little turn. And judging by looking at it now, we're just going to replace this. So now that we've pulled the outer air filter out and we've decided we're going to replace it this year, what we're using is a Napa Gold. Number is 9993. But let's pull the inner air filter out, which is right here. It ain't dirty at all, so nothing got compromised. Alright, so next on the list is 2 fuel filters. We got this one and we got one located right up there. This one, pretty simple. There's a little button here on the electronic connection, a little like paper clip style thing. Push that in, release the electronic connection, and then there's a little spinny mahickey right here. You just kind of spin that off, and then this filter should just fall right out, just like that. slide off the spinning mahickey. This little electronic connection will get replaced and put onto the new filter. Once you've removed this bottom little piece off of the old filter, the new filter, it has a little threaded port right here. You just screw that into there. Alright, so after you've put this little electronic doohickey on the bottom of this filter, this also is a Napa filter. Number is 3304. I like to pre-fill these filters before I replace them. So we'll head on over to the diesel and we'll top this off with diesel fuel. Alright, the fuel filter I pre-filled. We got this skosh, and basically that just slides up into a little groove. Get her sucked up in. Put this skosh back on, and it should cinch up in there. Yep, just like that. Alright, now that we got the filter replaced, we'll pop back this electronic doohickey. You just push in that little metal clip, and it should lock right back in. And there we go. Fuel filter is replaced. Alright, our second fuel filter is located right over here beside the air box. And doing a little bit of observation, to me it looks like it's going to be a lot easier to remove this filter if I actually remove this outer air box and the filter. It's just going to give me a little more hand movement in there. So let's do that quick. Alright, upon observation again, I'm finding that this fuel filter is in a very precarious location. Filter wrench just isn't getting in there properly, so we're actually going to use that type of filter wrench. Hopefully I can get here on the outside and turn it. Oh yeah, look at that. Look at that. Would you look at it? Just look at it. Alright. Fuel filter removed. Alright, now that we got the fuel filter here off and out, which wasn't super easy, it's going to be replaced with a Napa Gold filter. Number is 600445. And I have pre-filled this. So we'll get up in here and whizzer between the wires. Sneak it in there and get her started just like that. Basically we're ready to start this machine up. So we will give this a pump right here till we get some really good resistance on this pump. Alright, let's fire this machine up. Alright, we'll let the machine sit here and idle for a couple minutes. Just to let all the fluids flow, do what they gotta do. Check the dipstick one more time, make sure we got the proper amount of oil in it. And we'll hop in and replace the cabin air filter. I'll show you where that's at. Alright, now that we have all of our filters changed on the outside of the machine, there is a cabin air filter in this machine due to being an enclosed cab. This is also a Napa Gold filter replacement. It is 550360. And I'll hop in the cab and I'll show you the location of this. So if you crawl up in the cab here and you go behind the seat, you're going to see a little vented closure there with a Christmas tree hanging. And basically there's two screw caps right up in there. You remove those screw caps and the old filter will be underneath there. So let's get that replaced. Christmas tree. It's not Christmas anymore. And yes, we are definitely going to be replacing this one. And then you try to get your butt out of the cab. Now that we've gone through and replaced the filters, let's hop to the outside of the cab and I'll show you here where the final drives are located on this machine. And what we're going to do is we're going to cleanse the final drives and we're going to be replacing that fluid. Contact. Alright, now that we have the machine dislocated off of the ramps, we're going to locate the final drives on the machine, which are right there. And we're going to line those plugs up so we can drain these final drives out, flush them, and refill them with some new fluid. If you guys would you let me know with this plug right here, centered down the bottom. Alright, now that we have this plug right here located to the bottom so we can drain this final drive out, there's two plugs. You have your fill plug, check plug, and then you have your drain plug. What we're going to do is we're going to take this Allen head, it's a size 3/8, and we're going to loosen these up, which for sake of you watching me struggle, I already loosened these up. We'll pull the fill plug, set that to the side, and then we'll pull the drain plug and set that to the side. Alright, now that we've let this drip dry, I replaced both the caps. This final drive is empty. What I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate this cap right here to the top, and I'm going to fill, not really fill, but I'm going to put at least a couple ounces of diesel fuel in this, and then I'm going to run the machine back and forth for a minute just to let that diesel fuel run through this final drive. I've been told by many that diesel fuel doesn't really hurt any of the components in here. It just helps clean the inside of it. So we'll get this rotated up here so we can put a little bit of diesel fuel on this. Alright, so rinse and repeat. You guys let me know when this is back down to the bottom. Yes. Alright, that looks good. Thanks for letting me know. Loosen these back up and let the diesel fuel drain out of here. Alright, now that everything's been drained in this, I went through, we rotated everything back up to the top. This will now be your check plug, this will be your fill plug. It took just about a quart of 80-90 weight. I use Lucas oil products when I use my gear oil. Right here. So we just filled her up until she started coming out of there, and that means we know we have enough gear fluid in our final drive. Alright guys, gals, there you have it. This is a complete service on the New Holland C232. I hope you guys found this video entertaining and educational. If you guys did, would you please do me a big favor? Would you hit the like button, the subscribe button, just to stay tuned to any videos that are upcoming up in the future. Thank you and have a good day.